Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for joining me tonight. Hope you guys are having a great Memorial Day weekend, getting a little time off to spend with family or friends or relax by yourself, whatever you choose to do. Wanted to make a video tonight on some cards that I'm planning to submit to SGC and sort of how I arrived at that decision. Now, most of you are familiar with card grading and know that there are a lot of companies that offer grading services. But when you break it down, I think there are three main ones that people respect the most. Those are PSA, BGS, and SGC. You get peripheral companies like CSG and HGA, but I don't think that any of them, especially HGA, which has sort of been mired in conflict and poor performance, honestly, with some of the grades they've given out to some of these cards. I don't think that any of them have staying power. Now, I don't think that the market is completely closed to companies that might have staying power. It's just that I don't know that there are any right now that offer anything substantially better than PSA, BGS, or SGC. So I have some cards that I want to grade and sell, mostly sell before football season. So that was my goal. And to accomplish that goal, I looked at the three main grading companies. These cards, as you'll see, will not merit submitting for $300 per card. It just makes no financial sense. And even if I wait till July 1 when PSA reopens, and then, it's not going to be back in 2 months unless I do an express service, which, again, these cards are not worth that. So that sort of narrowed things to BGS and SGC. And SGC won out for two main reasons. Number one, they have the best prices. Now, if you want a 2-month turnaround, they're offering you, it's $30 per card. Now, I happen to have a shop here in Georgia that does group submissions to SGC and offers them at $29 a card. And that drops to $28 a card if you submit at least 25 cards. I don't have that many, but I do have at least 10, and so I'll be paying $29 a card. Versus BGS, for their 2-month turnaround, I think it was 53 or 55 if you want subgrade, something like that. So that ends up being roughly $25 per card for BGS. Now I will do a separate video on some cards that I do want to send to BGS, but these are cards that, as you'll see, I don't think really merit sending to BGS either. So the way I've broken this down is into 3 distinct groups, and I'll go over them. What I set out to do was, look over each card, and if I think it can get at least a 9, I'll submit it. This is sort of my calculation here for, is it worth it to grade the card? This is what I had to ask myself for each card. So to get your worth it number, the number that makes sense for you to grade the card, you need to look at what the raw value of the card is. What is it selling for currently without grading it at all? And you can use recent comps on 130point.com to see what it has been selling at. And then you're going to add that to the grading cost. So that's going to be a static cost of 29. Then you're going to multiply that number times 1.136, which is the fees number. That bumps you up to the fees number. So let's say you have a card that's selling for $5 raw. It costs you $29 to grade, so that's $34. Times 1.136, that gets you $38.62. That's your worth it number. So if you think you can sell that card for more than $38.62, then you should grade it. Because if you had a $5 raw card and you just sold it, you're netting $5. Let's just say there's no fees. But if you grade that same card, it costs you $29 to grade, and then you only sell it for $32, you're netting only $3. So you have to consider what you could sell the raw value of the card for. Now, that's going to be tricky because it could go either way. You could say, well, a lower raw value works in my favor because it makes my worth it number lower and it tempts me to grade. At the same time, that could be an indicator of popularity in the marketplace. So it's possible that a raw value that's higher, even though it may make your worth it number go up, it shows that people are interested in that card and willing to pay more for that card. So there's two ways to look at that. So I split my submission into 3 groups of cards. Number 1 is the QB group. And these cards are base cards that have a high print run and I want to get rid of. The pop counts on these are going to be out of control in the future, and it's best to unload these while they're still, a commodity to some degree. So the first card I've got is Jalen Hurts Optic card out of Optic. This is going for about $10 raw. The only SGC sale was for a 9.5 at $68.50. So I feel pretty comfortable with that calculation that this will grade out at a 9.5 or better based on my evaluation of the card. Pristine corners, edges, and centering. And there are a few very, very minor dimples on the front with most Optic cards, but I think that a lot of them get a pass. So that's the first one, is Jalen Hurts Optic. Next card, also unnumbered, Jordan Love Optic. This is well-centered, great edges, great corners. Again, I estimate this will be about a 9.5 on the SGC scale. I'm trying not to estimate too many 10s, if any, just because, you're only going to end up disappointed. So this is a $5 card raw, and a 10 sold for $68.73. So I think that, if all goes right, they get a 9.5. I think I could still easily outsell my worth it number with this card. Next card is a Jalen Hurts, just a concourse. This one I kind of went back and forth about. It looks pretty good to me. You can see the edges here have a little bit of shine, but they're not chipping. The corners all look good. There's a tiny, tiny print line. This case is scratched, so ignore all these scratches here. They're on the case or the card saver. There's a tiny, tiny print line down here. And so the the raw value of this card's so low that it might be worth it. It's like a $2 card raw. So I'm thinking about just getting this, flipping it, and it may be a loss, but I think that he's going to have a good season, or at least have a good start to the season. Fourth card is this Joe Burrow Rated Rookies Canvas card from Donruss. This is about a $28 card raw. So this is where the raw value being higher worries me a little bit. And the reason is that a 9 recently sold on auction. A 9.5 recently sold on auction for $36. I looked at this very, very closely, and I'd be surprised if it didn't get a 10. I think it's one of the only 2 on the list that I would say is a confident 10 for me. It's well-centered, corners, edges, everything, surface looks great. Nothing on the back that I could tell. So I think I'm playing with fire a little bit here, but I PC Burrow, so at worst I will just slab this and keep it in the PC. Next card, this is the Herbert, clearly Donruss Rated Rookie. The value on this, I should have probably sold it raw when it was going for about 100 when Hobby was out, but now it's like a $23, $24, $25 card, something like that. There are no comps, no SGC grades on this thing, but I'm pretty sure that a Herbert before the football season would sell well, even if this hits a 9. But you kind of get an advantage with the acetate cards because the corners and edges don't bend. So, you're starting out in 2 categories at probably close to a 10, if not a 10. And the surface looked good on this one. There were no scratches, no dimples, anything like that. So feel pretty good about that. As you can see so far, all these quarterbacks have been unnumbered, and that's my biggest thing. Here's the only quarterback that's numbered that I'm going to submit. This is a Jacob Eason out of Optic, blue, numbered to 179. So Eason, I don't know. This is probably a slab and hold card, not a slab and flip card, because I don't see Eason having any catalyzing events that happen between now and the season that prompt his cards to suddenly surge upwards. So, but at the same time, I don't really want to submit this to PSA or BGS. It's a little too low level for that. So this is about a $20 card raw, actually. And slabbed, I could always put it up for a buy now or best offer and see what kind of offers I get. But this is the lone numbered card on the list of QBs. So that concludes the QBs. Eason, Herbert, Burrow, Hurts, Love, and Hurts again. No Tua's in there. Next category of guys is just the playmakers, playmaker parallels. So these are all position guys, and these are all parallels. No base stuff, because base is not going to be worth it. First one's A.J. Dillon Optic. Blue, this is also at a 179. Very well, like Eason, could be a slab and hold, but at the same time, I think that there is room for him to be productive in the Packers offense. They like to run a two-back offense. If Rodgers is gone, they're going to lean on him even more heavily. If Jones gets hurt, there's any number of possibilities where Dillon becomes a rather important back. This card's in really good condition. It's maybe a little thick on the bottom, but not egregiously so, and pretty well centered left to right. Everything else looks good. This is about a $10 card raw. I just took it down from eBay. I was going to try to sell it raw, but it's not really worth it. So that, again, maybe a slab and hold there. Next card, Michael Pittman Jr. Aqua out of Optic. This is numbered to 299, 88 out of 299. He is, I think, maybe the most underrated receiver in the 2020 class. Interestingly enough, he resembles more of a sort of an older receiver body type that was popular 10 years ago when you had Julio, AJ Green, even going back to David Boston. He kind of reminds me of David Boston. He's big. He's 6'3", I think, 6'4", 223. So kind of a bigger receiver, really physical. And Carson Wentz is going to just lock on to him this year. He showed some really good flashes last year. And I think this card, which is currently selling raw for about $20, is going to be a really good hold for the year. Hype is already starting to increase on him after Wentz was added. I don't know that I believe in Wentz, but maybe this and the Eason are a good pair to hold. Next card. Last one from Optic is CeeDee Lamb Hollow, $11, $12 card raw, but Lamb is probably my favorite receiver in the class. Funny enough, as we look at this, I'm having second thoughts about it because of this top edge here. The good thing about this I failed to mention was that with all of these cards, it's the card shop that submits them, you get free pre-screening. So I'm going to let them take a close look at this, and if they don't think this can beat a 9 or be a 9 or better, then it's probably just going to be a card to hold raw. But CeeDee Lamb Hollow, unnumbered, looks pretty good other than that top edge, but I'll have them take a closer look. I love CeeDee Lamb. He and Pittman and Jefferson are probably my top 3 guys in that class. Finally, for the skill position players, this is Prism Black Darnell Mooney that I pulled from the second box of Chronicles Hobby. This one looks really good. It's going for about 15 raw. The only issue is maybe this back corner there, but everything else looks good. Even if that back corner brings it down to a 9, I still think it's worth it. He played 73% of the snaps last year. Looks poised to be the wide receiver 2 again. Fields is there now. Allen Robinson's playing on the tag. It could be his last year. They only drafted one guy, Daz Newsome, out of UNC, who's a slot receiver. So there's no real threat to Darnell Mooney being a really big and productive receiver. So that concludes the sort of skill position parallels with Mooney, Lamb, Pittman, and Dillon. And then finally, 3 autograph cards here. We got a Gabe Davis. This is a playoff ticket. It's a variation. You can see there at the V. Variation out of 49. This thing is really hard to value. The only two sales were 150 and 135, and I highly doubt that this card is worth that much. But Contenders is the preferred auto for football, and this is in relatively good condition. Top right corner concerns me a little bit, but even if at 9s, the Bills seem to love this guy, and Bills fans especially. I've gotten a few people messaging me about it. So this is what I'm thinking about. I kind of like the Lamb Hollow on the fence. I'll probably get a second opinion because of that corner up there, but overall, wouldn't have any problem submitting that if it looks good. Next one, another Contenders auto that might surprise you, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Similar with Bills fans, Browns fans love this guy. Out of Michigan, but showed some really good, really big plays last year with Mayfield downfield. He's a big guy, big receiver, 6'2". And, you know, this card was the only other card other than the Burrow canvas that I thought would 10. It is perfect, and that's kind of why I'm sending it in. And surprisingly, it's about a $15 to $20 card raw. So I think it would actually do all right graded just because it is a Contenders rookie auto. So that is gives way to the last one, which is this Denzel Mims optic auto. Again, really pristine, just nicely centered, corners, edges, everything looks good. Minor surface dimple, 1 or 2, but the price on this has actually gone up since the draft because of the Zach Wilson pick. It's now up to about $40 raw. And you know, I mean, if Wilson shows any predilection for Mims, this is going to be a relatively good card to have. And for $29, I think autos of decent receivers can be a good investment. So that concludes it. You know, ended up having about, I think that's 13 cards. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cards. And, you know, maybe a few second opinions there. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. What I'm going to do is I will do a video of the reveals when those come back from grading, and we'll take a look. And if I end up selling them, or if you guys want them, you know, let me know once they come back. Or if I end up selling them, I'll do like a financial recap video, sort of breaking down, you know, did this equation work out for me, and did it make sense at the end of the day. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Check back on Thursday for the winner of the Mosaic Blaster box, as well as we're going to be doing some opening of random hobby packs and a few retail packs as well. So tune in for that, and have a great Memorial Day, guys. Take care.